Stop motion animation is pretty simple by design. It's a style of animation done by taking individual photographs to make up the frames of a film, with either clay models or clay models with armatures, endoskeletons, wooden models such as puppets, and figurines of different shapes and materials. The original, or the believed to be the original creator of stop motion, is a man by the name of Edward Muybridge, who accidentally stumbled upon stop motion as he tried to win a bet to see if any one point had a horse running with all four hooves off the ground. He did this by setting up 24 cameras in a row with a tripwire system that, when activated, took pictures one at a time to capture the horse whilst it ran past the cameras. And this accidental success eventually led on to the stop motion we now know in films today. The pioneers, the first person to create a device for stop motion, or for the intended viewing of stop motion, was a man by Joseph Patou, by creating the phenakistoscope, which was improved and expanded upon by others in the future, such as William Horner, who created the zoetrope, and Emily Renaud, who created the praxinoscope. And that leads us to the pioneers of film. In the early 1900s, stop motion in film began to have a rise in popularity, or rather it came into mainstream succession, with films such as, or short films such as The Dinosaur and the Missing Link by Willis O'Brien, who later created the worldwide known film King Kong, or the first interpretation of it. And alongside him, there are others such as George Pal, who created the Powell technique, which incorporated puppets, or they could be known as puppetoons, alongside Ray Harryhausen, who created Dynamation, which incorporates live action and stop motion elements together in the same flick. This can be seen in films such as Jason and the Argonauts, or Beetlejuice, as they both incorporate Dynamation. And even in the past few years, stop motion films are still being made, such as this year in 2016, films like Kubo and the Two Strings was released. And even the films that were released in the past few years or decades, like the acclaimed Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton in 1993, or the Wallace and Gromit shorts that have been scattered throughout the years by Nick Park. But there are a few drawbacks when it comes to stop motion animation, such as time. You need around 2,700 frames in your film to make it of decent quality, and what I mean by that is how fluid it is. And that would make 30 frames per second, or FPS. So you have to take all of those pictures, a lot of them more than once, for the perfect scene. But you also have to remember where you were last frame. Otherwise the scene might fall apart due to not knowing how far you were in that scene, and random cuts aren't very good. More work that it takes immense effort and costs is the actual creation of everything that needs to be in the film, such as characters, settings and backgrounds, which all have to be designed separate from the actual story, as you can't use real life and real world locations and people as your actors and locations. They have to be crafted physically by a skilled craftsman, which would not be cheap. So in a layman's terms, every square millimeter needs to be accounted for.